Hi, my name is Jeff H. Sipe from practiceinterviews.com, and in today's video, I really want to focus in on the best way to have a good practice interview strategy with a friend. We're going to use that word friend pretty loosely, but it could be a friend, significant other, past, present colleague, any of the above. And I just want to dive right into some of the best strategies that are going to really help you get the most out of a session with your friend. So, item number one, bribe them. And so I love kind of using the word bribe, but seriously, we want somebody who's pretty engaged. And so make them a nice offering. It seems really basic, but I don't think it's being done enough. And the number one question you can ask them is there a specific item that I can help you with? Because there's some way or shape or form where you might be really impactful for them. It could be helping them set up their children's jungle gym, or it could be actually helping them practice their interview skills as well. So the best thing to do is ask. Now, if they're your friend, a lot of people are going to say, hey, look, let's just do this. I'm happy to do it for free. But I want you to proactively get them a gift card to a coffee shop, a brewery, a pizza shop, whatever it might be, and give it to them beforehand, because you just want to really incentivize them. Now, it's just the right thing to do. They're spending time with you. But I love the word bribe because we kind of have to push our friends, the people we care about the most, to really, really help us. Item two, this is going to be my favorite part of the video. This is make it easy. We need to make it really easy on them. And I feel like there's some other articles and videos that allude to this, but I want to go a step deeper. Let's really simplify this process and make it as easy as possible for them. So step one is I want you to send them a Google Doc that looks like this, and I want to go right into a screen share. So let's talk through this Google Doc that I created. It's going to look pretty intense, but just stick with me. So what I wanted to do was pick one behavioral question and then one open-ended question. Now, when we're sharing this with our friend, it's going to seem like a lot, because it is. But basically what I want you to do is I want you to take a doc like this and dump 50 questions in here, maybe 25 behavioral, 25 open-ended if you're interviewing for a company like a Google, and drop this section in here so that they can kind of check off during your conversation whether you've done these items or not. It's going to be super helpful. I want you to really get them to focus in on writing in the note section here, but afterwards they can kind of address, okay, were these items covered, yes or no? Again, this is going to be pretty intense for a friend, but these are critical items. Now, when it comes to this last section here for the timing piece, well, what we might ask them to do is split up their screen so they have a Google stopwatch going so they can stopwatch you by section. But just taking a few minutes to walk through some of these critical items. And on the behavioral side, we're talking situation and task, some of the critical actions that you would want to take, obviously the results, the learnings, and follow-up questions. And both of these are, these are pretty optional items, but just a little bit of high level going through it. Then we would flip over to a more open-ended question. They might not be familiar with the CFAS method. So you might say something like, look, I'm going to come in, I need to clarify, transition into my framework, transition into my assumptions, and ultimately transition into that first solution. And so again, this is just kind of an item or items for them to note. We still want them heavily, heavily focused in on this note section and just taking notes. But they can kind of look back to some of these items, and while they won't get it all down and they won't get it all perfect, this is just a great methodology to kind of see where you're hitting the mark and giving them specific items to think about. Again, the doc is a lot, but hopefully it just sets a little bit of the tone and stage for some of the items that you're looking for them to uncover as they do a practice interview with you. Okay, I know that doc was a lot, but the second step is more simplistic. I want you to provide them with a couple of weeks of availability, 1 week of availability, obviously depending on your timeline, but give them a lot of time, a lot of availability, and you are going to schedule this meeting for them. You're going to make sure that that doc is in the meeting, that they have the job description, that you've put a video link in there. We're going to go assumptive that this is going to be a video interview with your friend. So just do all those items. And it's really critical that you do set up this meeting so that you can record it and own the recording. So it's a really important but very simple step. Okay, we've done the basics. Now we're sitting with our friend and we really need to set expectations. And so this is really in the beginning of the conversation. We actually need to create psychological safety for them to be hard on us. So we really want to say, hey, look, Sue, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I want you to be tough on me, because if we build that space for them to be tough, they are likely going to give us more helpful, more critical feedback. But if we don't build in that space and set that expectation right away, they're not maybe going to feel that comfort level. So I just want you to be introducing and talking about that item. Now, item 4 is the physical space. And this is actually a great area for our friends to help us too. So we've come in, we've got them all the information they need. Then we've set expectations. Then before we actually dive into the conversation, we want to really address our physical space. And so within our physical space, there's going to be some of the technology piece, like, are we glitching? Do we have good connectivity? Have I remembered to turn my VPN off? Am I sitting right next to the router? Like, what is my internet speed, and is that coming through okay to you? Now, secondarily, lighting is really, really key in an interview. You want the light coming in on your face. You don't want a lot of shadows. A little bit of shadow like I have right now is okay. You really want to be able to see the person's eyes. We also want to be thinking about, a lot of times we'll be doing this at night, so we won't have as much natural light. Are we sitting in front of a window and is the light coming in during the day? What does it look like during the day? So just be thinking about that. But the critical piece is your eyes. Oftentimes the lighting will block out our eyes, and we want to be able to see that person. You also want to talk about body positioning. Are you too close? Are you too far away? Are you looking up? Are you looking down at the camera? So we really want to make sure that the body positioning is really great. We want to ask them about our background. Just, hey, does it feel pretty clean to you? Does it feel too noisy? Like, what's going on in the background? Just first impressions. And then the last one, and kind of the tricky one, but I think it's important to talk about, is the whiteboard setup. So many of these organizations, you're going to have to do this early on. Ask your recruiter if you can use a physical whiteboard. If you can in a video interview, you're going to really want to work on that with your friend, the darkness of the marker, the camera angle, going from sitting to standing. That exercise alone can take a little bit of time, but again, this is what your friend is there for and to really, really help you with. Now, before moving in to items 5 and 6, it's critical that you note these last couple of items to your friend, because you're basically going to want to have some sort of a checklist. I haven't created a checklist here, but just be thinking through these items and discussing these items with your friend before you dive in as well. So really, when you come onto the camera, you actually want to pretend like you're going into the interview. So make sure that when they hop on, you have that big smile, you're really engaged, and then you can check with them and say, hey, did it seem like I was engaged right when you hopped on the video? I knew you weren't anticipating that, but I just wanted to practice that item. And then the more critical stuff, good eye contact, especially with the camera, and that you're staying focused in on one spot. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you're staying in that one spot, and that you're looking away occasionally so it doesn't get awkward, that your shoulders are back, your head is up, you're not fidgeting. You can use your hands. Using your hands is okay, but just that they're checking for all these items. And then item 6 is really focusing on your more overall pitch, tone, and use of words. So how is your overall volume? And that could just be an audio check. How is your pace? Most people tend to be pretty fast, so you're going to want to ask them about the pace. Do you use a lot of filler words? It's going to be something you want to mention. Do you use the word for example, all the time? Then the use of words, the one other big one is that you have an overall positive pitch and tone, and that your tone is inclusive. And how that might show up is that you're not always defaulting or deferring to using the term he, for example. Now that you've done all this, the last piece of advice would be item 7, And this was a video I did a couple weeks ago, which is just introducing play different characters. You don't always have to play the same person. You could be nicer in some answers, tougher in others. You could actually interrupt me just to see how I react. So you can play multiple different characters, and I'll pin that video up there. But asking your friend to play multiple characters can really, really be valuable. There's a lot to consider here. I do want you to try and do this with multiple people. Obviously, if you get somebody who's really good, see if they'll practice with you multiple times. That's going to be helpful. You also just want to be thinking about people for the recruiter screen, the hiring manager screen, and the last real big one is not just regular interviews, but presentations. Actually practicing with a friend for presentations can be incredibly impactful as well. I know some of these tips are super basic, but if we set the tone and stage and really spend that first 15 minutes developing and talking with our friend about what our needs are, it's going to be a much, much more impactful practice session. I really hope this video helps. Thanks.